Is that Earth you can see at a distance? Right. Just look at it, floating in space, hanging out with its planet buddies. You spot orange-red Mars and Jupiter with its asteroid belt. Even tiny Pluto is there. All these planets keep their distance from each other, moving along in their own orbits. They're not very social, you see. But that's a good thing. It would cause nothing but trouble if they started to bump into each other. But even though there are others, Earth is the only planet we know that has life. And we've even figured out why. It's because it was lucky enough to appear in the best spot in our solar system, in the Goldilocks zone. Scientists say the key ingredient for life is water. But, well, there's water on Mercury. This planet has deposits of water ice at its south and north poles, but only because those places never see the light. Everywhere else, water simply evaporates from the surface of the planet. Mercury is way too close to the sun. Pluto has some water too. Astronomers even think the dwarf planet might be up to 30% water, but it's frozen. Unlike Mercury, Pluto's too far away from the sun, which is why all its water is in the form of ice. But Earth hovers in a perfect spot called the habitable zone. It has the right temperature for the water to remain liquid and for all forms of life to flourish. But what if Earth was the only planet in the solar system? No Mars, no Jupiter, no Mercury, no Venus. Things might have turned out a little different than what we're used to. Remember that massive asteroid that hit the Earth around 66 million years ago? Well, without Jupiter and its asteroid belt, our planet would be constantly hit by meteorites and asteroids, and some of them would be just as big as the one that caused all that sorrow to the dinosaurs. These rocky fellas would be roaming around in space with no one and nothing to stop them. And if Earth was the only planet out there, it would also be their only target. But that's not all. Look at all this huge space Earth would have all to itself. It means our planet would have an opportunity to travel a bit. It could even choose to leave the Goldilocks zone. But then, would life on the planet still be the same? So let's say Earth started drifting away from the sun. Then, it'd soon get too cold on the planet. Picture a place where the sun doesn't shine anymore. Dark, cold, covered in ice and snow all year round. That would be our Earth if it traveled further from the sun. If this happened, our cities would start to look very different. Right now, Earth is full of life. Come to any park and you'll see green trees and grass everywhere. There will be people walking, sitting on the benches, enjoying the sun. You'll definitely spot someone playing soccer or frisbee. On the park's lawns, there will be people resting on their blankets, soaking up the sun. A few people will be reading their books, looking relaxed and happy. Back in space, you see Earth again. The planet is still in its favorite spot. That's why life is so beautiful down there. But wait, is it moving? Our planet is definitely further from the sun now. Has it changed things for Earth? It actually looks a bit bluer now. Down there, famous golden California is not so golden anymore. It's gloomy and dark, much like all other places on Earth. New York is covered in ice. Even in the hottest places, the temperatures are now below freezing, including tropical destinations like the Bahamas. After a while, liquid water turns into ice. The oceans now look like giant skating rinks, except there's no one to skate there since the planet has become way too cold to support life. Okay, then what if, instead of drifting further away from the sun, Earth moved closer, with people still aboard? Whoa, the temperatures here are crazy, too hot to handle. The climate would be getting hotter and hotter. Natural disasters would start to occur more often. Hurricanes and floods would be a common thing on Earth now. And pretty soon, the planet would get too hot for people to handle. Particles from the sun would become a serious threat. The atmosphere would be struggling to protect Earth from solar radiation, but this shield would be growing weaker. Liquid water would be nowhere to be found anymore. maybe only in underground deposits, Earth would look a bit like Mars, all rocky and barren. The Mississippi River would dry up and leave behind a huge canyon. All the oceans would be gone too. At the moment, the Mariana Trench is the deepest known place on Earth. It's incredibly hard to reach its bottom because of the immense water pressure there. But without water, trips to the deepest spot on Earth would be possible. It would help people uncover some more of Earth's secrets. If people still lived on the dry and scorching hot planet, that is. In other words, if someone was to explore Earth after the planet had moved closer to the Sun, everything would be completely different. But what if Earth didn't move at all and everything remained the same? The only difference, there would be no other planets around us. It would change the way people explore space. Sure, there would still be navigation, communication, and weather satellites, and maybe space telescopes. But there wouldn't be any other space objects close enough for people to send missions there. This would affect the future too. If people had no desire or opportunity to go to space, they would invest in their home planet. They would build sky cities instead of looking for other planets to colonize. These days, if you get a state-of-the-art telescope, you'll see distant stars and other planets. The better the telescope, the more detail there is for you to see. But with no other planets out there, the picture of space wouldn't be so exciting. Stars would still be visible, and you might even spot a meteorite or two. And you'd definitely see the moon. But that's about it. Space agencies would mostly be focused on keeping Earth secure, mainly because asteroids would become frequent visitors. To protect the planet, scientists would have to figure out ways to get rid of them. Like a massive laser beam. When turned on, it could go all the way to the moon and even further. Instead of building rockets to explore space, SpaceX and NASA would be in the asteroid clearing business. People wouldn't even think of trying to contact other civilizations. If there were no planets similar to Earth, they would consider it a wasted effort. This means no radio signals being constantly sent out to space. A curious fact, in February of 2008, the Beatles' song Across the Universe was beamed into deep space. It was done to celebrate both the song's 40th anniversary and NASA's 50th anniversary. In the 70s, people also sent a radio signal out into space. It contained some basic information about humans and the solar system. But it was more a feat of strength for technology than an attempt to contact any alien buddies we might have. With no planets around, the world of sci-fi would change too. There would be no more movies about deep space exploration. No massive spaceships and rockets would appear on the big screen. And since there would be no expeditions to other planets, no rovers would be sent to space to look for signs of life and explore new worlds, like what the rovers on Mars are doing right now. People would concentrate more on their own planet. For example, they would begin to explore its insides. New technologies would allow us to dig much, much deeper, all the way through Earth's crust and further. And doesn't a trip to the planet's core sound exciting? Instead of astronauts, there would be explorers of the deep underground. New drilling technologies would be invented to make the digging process more effective. There would be new types of vehicles. They would be created to drill and protect explorers from the enormous underground pressure. While exploring the world under the planet's surface, people would likely find absolutely new life forms. Those would be mysterious creatures that evolved to survive in the dark, in extreme temperatures, and with barely any food. It certainly helped people understand more about their home planet. Our Sun. Scenario 1. Something strange just happened now. Every TV channel, the news, they're all talking about a black hole that came closer to us, on the spot where our sun used to be. You can even see an accretion disk, and the background of the sky looks kind of distorted, which means it got really close. Normally, black holes are so far away that we can't see them with the unaided eye. You can't even see them with a telescope directly. What's it doing here so close? And where's the sun? Did the black hole swallow it? The sun used to be in the center of our solar system, far enough not to burn us, but still close enough to give us light, warmth, and beautiful scenes when it rises in the east and goes to rest in the west. Hey, this one even rhymes. Well, it gave us life. The most massive body in our solar system contains 99.8% of its total mass. It's so wide, you could fit more than 1 million Earths inside of the sun. Maybe our sun turned into a black hole, but it's way too early for that to happen. I mean, that's how they form, when enormous stars come to the end of their life cycle and explode, which is called a supernova. They end up collapsing on themselves, becoming very small. It's a tiny size and a huge mass. That's what makes black holes' gravity so strong, and even light that comes too close can't escape. And all the stars in the universe are shrinking and will disappear at some moment. Our sun loses 4 million tons of mass every second, and eventually, the only energy left in the universe will be generated by black holes. A black hole is surrounded by dust, gas, and radiation. The radiation is very dangerous, so we hope our planet won't come near it. Our solar system doesn't have light anymore. No light and no heat either, so even Mercury and Venus will probably get covered in ice pretty soon, not to mention Earth. Do I need to say nothing will survive this new ice age? The only salvation might come from the accretion disk that spins so fast it generates heat, but that's too many chances to take. Still, at least if the black hole has the same exact mass as the sun before it, all the planets will remain in the same orbits, Earth included. But if it has a mass bigger than our sun, which is something our scientists are currently trying to figure out, then bye-bye, solar system. It was nice knowing you. Scenario 2. Oh no, what's happening? It was supposed to be a nice sunny day, but now you see darkness descending so abruptly. How come it's night, yet the clock says it's 2 p.m., and the moon looks different? The TV reports say our sun is gone, and due to some mysterious events, the moon is not orbiting the Earth anymore. It's in the center of our solar system now. We don't have much time left. Since the sun is not in the center of our solar system, we now have 8 minutes and 20 seconds to become aware of it. It may take millions of years for the sun's energy to travel from its core to the surface, but 8 minutes and 20 seconds is exactly how long it takes for sunlight to reach Earth. The light takes a journey across 93 million miles, which is the distance that separates us from the sun. We're not in the habitable zone anymore. The habitable zone is the distance from a star, in our case, the sun, at which liquid water could exist on the surface of a planet. Now that the sun's gone, its light won't reach us anymore, and our planet will gradually become a frozen, lifeless rock. Who knows if we'll have enough time to come up with some technologies that would provide us with the solar energy we need to sustain life on Earth. If not, well, millions or billions of years later, scientists from some other civilizations would explore it, trying to find evidence if life ever even existed there. It would be the same as we do with Mars and other planets in our solar system, trying to figure out if they've always been lifeless or if there might be a sign that some organisms used to live there. Something else, also vital for our life, travels at the speed of light. Gravity. Without the sun, for roughly 8 more minutes, the planets would continue circling the empty center of our solar system until the clock ticks and they finally drift somewhere into an unknown direction of outer space. Our moon doesn't have a strong enough gravity to keep us in place. It can't shine so brightly to give us warmth and support life. It's so far, we can barely see it now. Without the moon that peacefully travels close to our planet as it used to, we can see tides are getting lower incredibly fast. Oh, and it's becoming really windy. Winds are so much stronger and faster now. When things were normal, our planet sat at a 23.5 degree tilt, which is the reason we had changing weather and seasons. Now the tilt is so extreme, it's getting very cold very fast. And our time is almost up. People are screaming, everyone's in panic. We still have maybe 1 minute left until we sink into eternal darkness. Scenario number 3. We're not sure what exactly happened and how the life we carelessly lived yesterday came to an end. No one could predict it, but it seems that, out of nowhere, a giant neutron star took the spot where our sun used to be. It's not something we'd recognize on our own. We just noticed something was different, and the sun kinda got smaller and weirder. The rest we heard on the news, and no one knows how it happened. Maybe our sun is somewhere behind the neutron star. Or the star pushed it out of our solar system and into an unknown direction? A neutron star is the densest space object we know about. It has almost twice as much mass as our sun, but it's all squeezed into a star only 10 miles, 15 kilometers, across, which is about the size of a city on Earth. A neutron star forms when a huge star runs out of fuel. It collapses in a big explosion. Its very central region, the core, collapses, which is why every electron, negatively charged particle, and proton, positively charged particle, crush together into a neutron, which is either uncharged or neutrally charged. We're in a very tricky situation now, basically waiting for our end to come. This neutron star has gravity 2 billion times stronger than the one Earth has. This means our new sun will pull all the planets in our solar system towards itself and eventually destroy them. It's already started. For the first time that we know of, the planets are leaving their stable orbits, attracted by the powerful force of the neutron star. It's becoming chaotic pretty fast. And it won't stop there. A neutron star rotates more than 700 times every second, which is incredibly fast. Our sun rotates once every 27 days. So, after it destroys all the planets, including us, this star will continue whirling throughout the universe at about 1/5 the speed of light. Maybe it will slow down and fizzle out with time, but maybe not. After thousands of years, many neutron stars begin to slow down and blow out. But that doesn't always happen. If it meets another star, it will orbit it and start to feed off its atmosphere until it collapses at some point and turns into a giant black hole. Our sun was going to burn out anyway. Until the neutron star showed up, the sun was 4.6 billion years old, which was about halfway through its lifespan. It had already burned off about half of its hydrogen stores and had enough supplies for another 5 billion years. It was eventually supposed to end up the size of the Earth. After running out of fuel, it would have simply collapsed. It would have retained its enormous mass, but its volume was going to be similar to that of our planet. No sun, no life, so the result would have been basically the same. But this way, it would have been a slow process. Who knows if humans would even inhabit this solar system in those times? But with neutron stars, things move towards the end pretty quickly, and it's way more chaotic. If the neutron star was going crazy somewhere far away in another galaxy, we'd only see it in the shape of a distant flashing light that we call a pulsar. But this way, boom! Imagine you're surfing a perfect wave, and then it suddenly freezes. Well, it sure sounds creepy, but couldn't possibly happen in real life, right? Wrong. You can see mind-blowing frozen waves in Antarctica. These waves occur when the ice gets compressed and the ever-increasing pressure squeezes the air bubbles out. As for the beautiful blue color, it's the result of ice melting and refreezing. When the summer begins, an ordinary-looking river in Colombia transforms into a liquid rainbow. CAÑO CRISTALES, also known as the most beautiful river in the world, sparkles in 5 colors: red, black, green, blue, and yellow. It only looks like this for 6 months of the year because the aquatic plant that gives it the bright hues needs the right water level and amount of sunshine to use its magic. Australia is home to a unique horizontal waterfall on the coast of the Kimberley region. It's really just a fast tidal flow moving through 2 narrow-aligned rocks. The tides can rise 30 feet. The falls reverse whenever the tide changes. Also down under is the biggest single rock in the world. It's so big that it even looks like a large hill. It has a circumference of 6 miles and is 1,150 feet high. The edges are eroded since the rock has been around forever. These mud brick buildings are 7 stories high and were built out of fertile soil, hay, and water that were made into bricks and left to bake under the sun for days. The ground floors were used for keeping livestock and grains, and the upper levels were places for socializing and catching good views. Antelope Canyon in Arizona, also known as the place where water runs through rock, has two sections of slotted canyons. Throughout the years, the water running through sandstone has created a picturesque formation like no other. If you ever set foot on the arid soil of the Namib Desert in Namibia, prepare yourself for an eerie picture. You'll see countless circular patches between 6 feet to 50 feet in diameter. Organized in a honeycomb-like pattern, they stretch across 1,500 miles toward the horizon. These patches are also known as fairy circles, and you might be disappointed by the explanation of this mystery. No one knows for sure the origin of these circles, even though there are numerous theories, from the radioactivity of the soil to the activity of sand termites. Mount HALEAKALA in Hawaii is one of the quietest places in the world. National park managers nearly failed to find any sounds to measure here. The place translates from Hawaiian as House of the Sun. It formed thanks to a volcano that got active 1 million years ago. The lava flows built up over the years and grew into a mountain. It has its own climate and weather that's impossible to predict. It takes almost a week by ship from South Africa to travel to the world's most isolated settlement of Edinburgh of the Seven Seas. You'd need special permission from the local government to visit as a tourist. About 300 locals all treat each other as family, grow their own food, and keep their island impeccably clean. Daintree Forest in Australia is the oldest rainforest in the world. It has been around for over 100 million years. Daintree is home to some unique animal species, 12,000 different types of insects, and about half of Australia's frog, butterfly, and bat population. The rainforest also has around 3,000 types of plant species. Rocks that travel are called sailing stones because they seem to move across the dry lake bed of Racetrack Playa in Death Valley National Park, California. As the rocks move, they leave behind a creepy trail that used to have scientists baffled. After all, some of the boulders weigh more than 660 pounds. On top of that, some of the trails are curved, while others are mostly straight, with unexpected turns to the right or the left. But eventually, NASA experts cracked the mystery in 2006. It turns out that in winter, the lake fills with water, covering the boulders at the bottom in ice. And since ice is pretty buoyant, underwater movements and winds make the stones move across the lake bed. In their wake, they leave bizarre tracks, only seen when the water evaporates in the summer. Lake Maracaibo in Venezuela is often called the lightning capital of the world. Thunderstorms arise here 300 days of the year, with a peak in September. Sometimes there are up to 200 flashes in a minute. It happens because cool air coming from the surrounding Andes meets with warm air from the Caribbean Sea and generates electricity. Some places on Earth have less gravity than others. Canada's Hudson Bay, for example, used to be covered by a super thick and heavy glacier during the last ice age. The ice had pushed tons of rock mass outward when it started to melt. The smaller the mass of an object, the less gravity it has. It'll take another 5,000 years for the Earth to get into its original shape in this spot. Until then, you'll always weigh less here than anywhere else in the world. Five Flower Lake in China's Zhoujiago Valley changes its color from amber yellow to emerald green, dark jade to light turquoise, and sometimes coral. It never freezes thanks to underwater hot springs and never melts or dries up, unlike other neighboring lakes. The locals believe it's made up of pieces of a mirror that fell down from the sky. The surrounding valley has some narrow conic karst landforms, spectacular waterfalls, around 140 bird species, and giant panda, along with other endangered plant and animal species. Cape Denison in the Commonwealth Bay in Antarctica is the windiest place on the planet. it has unusual downslope winds. They are formed because of the continent's dome shape and the always cold climate. These winds are so fast and strong, they ruin the measuring instruments and the masts they are attached to. The record speed so far was 200 miles per hour. The Sahara Desert, which takes up 10% of the African continent, is extremely hot and dry. That's why it's one of the top places with the clearest skies. There's hardly ever a cloud above it. This, plus the remoteness from any civilization, makes it one of the best spots for stargazing. In Denmark, people experience blackout-type effects on a pretty regular basis. Just look how weird it is. But it gets even more bizarre when you find out that birds are the cause of this unusual phenomenon. Every spring and fall, millions of starlings begin their annual migration from Sweden, Finland, and Norway toward Britain, Belgium, and France. Denmark is the lucky place where you can observe Sort Sol, the Danish name for black sun. The birds travel in large flocks, which makes it easier to exchange information and stay warm. Before the birds land, they perform movements that look like dancing, but in fact, they are making different formations in an attempt to shoo predators away. And although the birds fly in highly synchronized patterns, people think that the huge flock changes its shape chaotically. The dark sun lasts only 20 minutes during sunset, and you have to be either fast or lucky to see this phenomenon. The secret of the cotton candy color of Pink Sand Beach in Barbuda is the crushed corals on it and tiny single-celled red organisms living beneath them. You can see that famous shade when the waves are strong enough to wash that mix ashore. The secret of impeccable cleanliness of this place is that it has no public facilities and is less crowded than other Caribbean islands. It took thousands of years to form Picaninny ponds in Australia. This whole time, underground freshwater was slowly moving to the surface through limestone. It formed a large underwater cavern with white limestone walls. You'd need a special permit to dive here, and it's definitely worth it. Batara Gorge Waterfall has 3 natural bridges for anyone to walk across, take awesome pictures, and even have picnics. The waterfall is a result of limestone erosion that's been going on for millions of years, even though it looks like someone punched a hole right in the middle. It's located in the village of Tanarine, which is just 2 hours away from the capital Beirut. A village in the Meghalaya state in India is known as the wettest on the planet, according to the Guinness World Records. The average annual rainfall here is about 470 inches. It's a result of warm, moist monsoon winds coming from the Bay of Bengal, bringing clouds full of rain. It flows into rivers and waterfalls and never stops. The locals that work in the fields always wear basket-like covers to protect themselves somehow. The village of Leknes, with a population of about 3,500, is located in Norway, above the Arctic Circle. It has an unusually warm climate compared to other places in the same latitude. In January, the average minimum is 32 degrees Fahrenheit and rarely drops below 30 degrees Fahrenheit. July average temperature is 53 degrees Fahrenheit. That's pretty regular for many places in Europe.